All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 2 of our live Cleverly Changing Homeschool podcast. I am Elle from the blog cleverlychanging.com, and we just wanted to invite you to this conversation. I know a lot of people are homeschooling and they're thinking about homeschooling. They want to know what it's about. And so that's what we're having this conversation about. Normally, we do a live audio podcast, the Cleverly Changing podcast. And I am one of the co hosts, and Miriam is actually the other co host. So, Miriam, if you can introduce yourself and then tell everybody about our guests, that would be great.
Okay, well, I'm Miriam, and I'm a mama and a homeschool mama, and I like to grow things. And our guest today is Miss Gianna Snell, and she's a pretty cool lady. Although I haven't actually met her in person, I know her brother. So if she's good like her brother, we're good. She's great.
All right, Gianna, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay, I am a photographer here in Huntsville, Alabama. I've owned my business for about 10 years. I just opened up my own studio about a year ago. And my husband is the pastor of a church here in Huntsville. I have 3 children. They're 10, 7, and 5. And I'm just happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yes. So we want to jump into this conversation for everybody so
All
that they
right.
will really get a full understanding. We
Okay.
actually had Gianna pre-submit some questions so we could make sure that we covered everything. This conversation will be about 30 minutes. So we're going to try to pack in a lot of stuff so that you guys get a full understanding about homeschooling and you don't feel so nervous. So I know it can feel scary going into it. For me,
Yeah.
this will be my 7th year homeschooling.
Mm.
So at first, I was nervous just like everybody else, but my kids were really little at the time. So I was like, if it doesn't work out, I can always send them to school. And truthfully, in all aspects, if it doesn't work out, you can always get some tutors. You can always send your kids to school later, even do remote schooling. So no worries, you got this. That's really what we want you guys to know. With the Cleverly Changing podcast, we want to provide people support. And so that's what we're doing in this conversation. We're providing support and letting you know how it was for us. So let's jump into the questions. All right.
Good ones.
So, yes. So the first question is, can you share with me a day in the life of your homeschool? So
Who's going first?
you are. Oh,
Uh-oh.
Yes, who's going first? I guess since I'm talking, I will start. So for us, it's very loose. I don't have a real, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This is what we do. I typically will start with the younger children first. They seem to be a little more approachable and receptive in the earlier hours. So after breakfast, we will, you know, start things. Um, my oldest, because she's 12, we do, however she wants to do it. So I let her know these are what we're trying to accomplish for today. I'm going to let you take the reins, figure out if you want to start now, you want to start later, do a little bit now, a little bit later. That works. So throughout the day, it's, constant, it's nonstop. So, it's something to clean up, somebody's lunch to make. um, snacks to hand out, outdoor time. Uh, we just make time for all of it. So, no day is ever the same, really. It's always something different going on. Yeah, I'm not really the stickler for the schedule. Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Right. So I want to speak on that just very quickly because I think when you initially think about homeschooling, you think about bringing what you did growing up in school into your home and having this structured system from like 8 to 2. But that's kind of not necessarily how homeschooling works for a lot of families. So I would say kind of disconnect that thought a little bit because you're not trying to recreate public school or private school
Mm,
in your home. You're trying
okay.
to teach your kids and give them a love of learning. So that's
Mm,
more so the mindset that you're approaching it with versus let's accomplish this, and this by a certain time. So in school, everything is very time oriented. And at your house, it's going to be more of a fluid experience for many families. Some families, they are that type A personality and they do go
mm,
by a rigid schedule. There have been some years when I tried to go by a rigid schedule, and some years it worked and some years it didn't. So, how I typically try to start my day, because we're big on health and healthy living. So um, I believe that, families should have breakfast together. They should, we like to exercise in the morning. So if you read, if you, have a family together, so like families that have devotion, families that meditate, families that exercise, the morning would be your time to do that. For us, I like to take a walk in the morning because I found that it wakes us up to have some fresh air. And I know that may sound a bit odd, that we would kind of start with outdoor time first, but we do. We
yes.
do because I need to wake up. My body needs to feel refreshed. And
Mm,
in the morning, it's not too hot. Usually the temperature is more mild, and we can kind of get out, and then when we come in, I give them a little bit of a break,
mhm,
to maybe eat a snack or get a drink, and I may put on like a video or something like that to kind of transition. It would be a transition time. So if you're a singing family, this is a great time to sing or something. I don't sing, so that's not something I do. So, this would be that time. And then we start kind of lessons. Although
okay.
I'm a mom of twins, my children do not learn the same. And so I actually, I'll introduce a subject, but sometimes I
Mhm,
have to spend one-on-one time differently. So I'll give one child a task and I'll say, let me know if you have questions. And then if it's something else that I actually have to teach, sometimes I don't teach them at the same time because they learn differently. And I found that
mm,
they need that special attention. And I know that, many parents are teaching multiple grades. Like you, Miriam, she has 4 kids. And I know, Gianna, you have 3 kids. And so you're going to be
mhm,
teaching multiple grades. And even me, as a mom of multiples, I don't even, there have been some subjects when I could teach them exactly the same, like art,
yeah.
reading, we all read at the same time. And when my kids are reading, I read too. When my
Mm,
kids, like, so there are some activities that you want to give them that no matter what their age is, they can do without your help. So like little bitty kids, that would be playtime. So you want to have a safe area where they can play, pick up whatever toys, they're pretty safe, and you're close by. Like if you're trying to get work done, you're close
mhm,
by, you're looking at them, they're doing their task without your assistance. So you want to put that into your day because you want to give some downtime. You're not literally going to be standing at your board or standing up teaching them all throughout the day. So
Okay.
we do have some questions. So we have Keisha Patterson. It says, is it the same subject at different times? So sometimes it is. So with my kids, like for their math needs, they're a bit different. And one works really fast with math and the other not so much. So one is really quick with like handwriting type stuff and writing, and the other one isn't. So sometimes I do the same subject, but at different times based on what that child needs. The beauty of homeschooling is you're not teaching to teach. You're not teaching to say you got it done. You're teaching for them to learn and to really understand concepts. And so, in a traditional classroom, there may be, 18 kids in the class. And so the teacher is given that concept, and the kid who doesn't catch it, you know, either they need tutoring later on, or, they just don't get it, or, the parent has to supplement that. So in your home, you have to be looking for whatever deficits may exist or where you need to strengthen. It's homeschooling gives you a great opportunity to reinforce lessons. And you want to, so if you're giving your kids spelling words throughout the day, you want to reiterate those words. You want to use sentences. You want to ask them, hey, do you remember how to spell something? And so you want to kind of make it a fluid experience for your household. And I know I'm saying a lot of information all at once, but I think this is also a time where if you do have a spouse, that's where they come in. Whatever you are able to plan ahead of time. So, just like the teacher has a list of objectives, you also want to have a list of objectives. These are the concepts we want to learn for the day. So, I would say you're talking about the day if you want to do it on Sunday for the full week. But when you're introducing it to your kids, don't introduce too much information all at once. They get overwhelmed. It's like, no, this is too much you asked me to do. So you wanna pre-plan for yourself, but that doesn't mean you're gonna tell your kid all of that. You want to tell them one or two, no more than two things at once. And really, you want to stick to that one, especially for the younger ones, because their brain cannot process those multiple things all at one time. So I think it's when you can do that, you can also get help. So like if you do have a spouse for a day that you may have a conference call and it's normally your time to do a certain subject, if you have that in writing and you say, this is what we're going to do, somebody else can help you. But if you don't, and you're trying to scramble at the last minute, you're going to be overwhelmed. So that is a lesson that I'm still learning. But it is helpful. So I'm going to be fully transparent. So we are still homeschooling during the summer, and my husband is the one teaching them. And he's like, you need to have all this stuff ahead of time. Tell me what I have to do and I can help you. But if I don't know what they're learning, I can't help you. And so my kids are in middle school now, and they see they really want daddy time where he's teaching them. They're really valuing that. Wow. So right now he's doing more of that. And I'm just saying, this is what they need to know. Wow. So I think, again, you want to have those objectives. You want to have a plan, not that you're going to follow it rigidly, but you do need a guide, because kids can tell when you're winging it and you don't know what to do. And that's when they will start being
taking advantage and getting in the cracks and crevices on you.
Yes. So if you want to keep control of your house, pre-plan. It's important. And if you are looking for what your kid needs to know, there are definitely books for that. The book, they have books for every grade level, what my kindergarten needs to know, what my first grader needs to know, and so forth. But there's also IXL, that has
Yeah.
the concepts that need to be. So in homeschooling, you're looking at those concepts. How can I best achieve these concepts to teach my kid these concepts? And
Okay.
you can look for supplemental materials. So if you have a kid who's a hands-on learner,
Mm-hmm.
you want to look on Pinterest for some hands-on activities. So that's how you supplement. Um, so
Okay.
I said a whole lot all at once.
Let me ask
So
you a
I'm going to give
question.
you a chance to ask the question. And Miriam, whatever, you can go ahead and answer it. So go ahead, Gianna.
I have a question. Okay. One thing I thought of was what does, as you were talking about having a plan and having a guide, what does that look like for you all? Is it okay at the beginning of the semester, the beginning of the year? I kind of plan out the year. Is it a monthly thing? Is it a weekly thing? What does that look like for you all? What are you writing plans in? What do you carry them in? What is that?
So for myself, I prefer to do it. Well, I do it two ways.
Okay.
So the more immediate way is every week. So usually
Okay.
on a Sunday, I'll
Okay.
write something down like we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. I'll gather up whatever worksheets are going to use. I'll find whatever materials need to be used. I'll go through my little drawer where I keep all the stuff so they can't get to it, and I'll put those over to the side so they'll be ready for me when I'm going to use them. And then I also do in the summer just a kind of like an overview sort of thing where I look
Mm-hmm.
for um, the bigger picture. So before the year starts, I kind of have the bigger picture planned out, what um, what workbook we're going to have, um, what concepts we're going to cover. Um, Go grab a bunch of art supplies and all that kind of stuff. Come make sure
Okay.
we have things to do science experiments with. Um, that's kind of it. If I'm going to use any particular curriculums or um, co-ops and things, set all that stuff up. The
Okay.
big things, I do those
At the
early
beginning.
on, and then every
Mm-hmm.
week I'll go through and say, okay, Rael needs to do this, Amira needs to do that, Paru is going to be doing this, and so then I know pretty much, where we're going for the week. We're able to, yeah, and I don't hold myself to it
Yeah.
because I find that when I do that, I tend to be more of a taskmaster, and they don't like that. So I try to be more flexible with it so that, if something's not working or if they're bored with something, then I can say, okay, well, how can we make this more fun? Let's do it differently. Let's do something else altogether.
Mm,
Yeah.
I think
that's
that's
good.
great that you just mentioned that because that brings up the major rule that I have within homeschooling, and that's be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, schooling doesn't have to take place between a certain time frame. So, there are some subjects that you can do later on in the day, so like
Or night.
reading is something that you can do before bedtime, because you're the
Mm,
teacher,
true.
you know what your kids are doing. So some of it can become a part of your lifestyle and you can add that
Right.
on later. You can check it off. But everything doesn't have to be done at that core school time. So
Mm,
you want to get done, the things that you feel like, oh, we have to do this way at this time. You want to get
yeah.
those things done. But then the other stuff that you could kind of fulfill later, where they don't really know that they're learning, you want to
Mm,
fulfill those at other times. Because I think it's very important so that they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this all day, because that burns them out.
It does. It does.
mm,
Yeah.
wow.
Like Akila Richards calls it the schoolish culture. Having the ability to let go of that. And it's not easy because,
Yeah.
most of us have matriculated through your typical school system and we're used to that regimentation, just repetition,
Yeah.
and yeah, I find myself reminding myself to, pull back, take it easy. Is it really that serious that they're not doing this right now just because I want them to do it right now?
Hmm.
Probably not. I can figure out a way to sneak it in there on them, and then I
Wow.
feel like I got done what I wanted to get done, and they have no clue.
Right. And
Yeah.
that brings up one of the questions that you had. Have you ever had any discouraging days in homeschooling? Oh my gosh, many, many. So that is going to be something that definitely happens because, I already mentioned my kids right now have let me know I want daddy to teach us, not you. So, all my kids they've always been homeschooled. So I've always been that primary person. And so they're like, I want somebody new now. Because this would have been the time that I put them into a more traditional environment. So they're tired of me. I'm like, I'm tired of me too. So I've set it up so that he can help out. And that's kind of where you bring in some other things. So in the past, when we were frustrated, that's when I would go to the museum or we would go take a walk. We would implement some outside games. Like I have done, like most vacation,
Mm.
we were playing outside, kicking the ball, like playing soccer, throwing the frisbee, playing volleyball.
Mm.
And I was calling out these numbers
Yeah.
and asking them the questions. So you find
Mm.
ways to incorporate it while doing other things because
Okay.
nobody wants to just sit there with a pen and
Mm.
paper for most of the day and check off some boxes and write some notes. That's not what they want to do. So
Right.
you have to find some fun ways to incorporate it. And so I'm
Right.
just being fully honest where, when I say that you will have discouraging days, but that's when you talk to a friend. Hey, I'm trying to I'm trying to do handwriting with my child and they're very frustrated. Have you ever experienced that? And you ask somebody what has helped for you. For me with handwriting, getting them pretty pens, pencils, like things that they want to use.
Mm.
I
Yep.
know that's a little bit of bribery, but hey, it
No,
works.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Wow.
I get
Right,
paid for
because
compliance
and getting
sometimes.
them notebooks and things that they like that they're excited about. And
Right.
Mm.
so letting them kind of pick out, well, if it's something that they really like a character, maybe they write a sentence about that character. So you have to find creative ways to make them think, oh, I want to do this. So that has been very helpful. I also, if I am short tempered or annoyed, I don't continue because that's not going to be a good
Mm.
situation for them and that's not going to be a good
Right.
situation. That means it's time for an educational video. So Netflix has documentaries that are educational. And if your kids are really young, you as the parent can take notes and reiterate those questions to make sure that they understood what they were learning. So you can
Yeah.
take notes as a parent and ask questions, or you can, if they're older, they can take their own notes and you can discuss what you watched, and that is a learning experience and it takes the
Mm.
pressure off of you. I also use Brain Pop. It's an educational tool
Brain pop is
that is, yes, and it's great because it has videos that are kids centered and it has questions. So here's the thing, in our area, you want to have some paperwork because when we meet with the state, they want us to prove that our children has received regular instruction. And
and names
so
and dates.
yes, with actual date. And the good thing about Brain Pop is when you can do it online and they can answer the questions together and you can print it out. You can print it out
Mm.
and put it in their binder. And that's what we do. And it gives us an opportunity to do something different where the pressure isn't all on me.
Mm.
Um, Also, it's
Okay.
also a great time um, to read. So implementing a quiet time in your homeschool regimen where it's like, hey, for these 15 minutes, we're just going to have some quiet time. You can, for younger kids, they can play, maybe they get some board books or, whatever. It's just a time where, you put on some soft music, because a part of teaching your kids is kind of reverse psychology. You kind of have to get them to understand that, it's changing that temperament, changing the vibe in the room at times. And soft music can do that, and also kids are made to move. So don't have your kids sitting down longer than 10, 15 minutes at a time. And I'm being honest, even older kids need to take a brain break
Yeah.
where they get up and move. And so you as an adult also need to move, get up and stretch, exercise. You can do yoga, you can do other things, but we were made to move our bodies.
Yeah.
And so you got to incorporate that into your homeschool as well.
Can I
So,
just make a note about moving?
yes, go
So,
ahead.
well, moving for children, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, like you're saying, exercisey kind of thing. So if they want to read standing up, if they want to eat standing up, things like that, let them move around. Just because they're running up and down the hall or something doesn't mean that they're not able to still be in connection with what you're giving them. So back to what we were saying before about letting go of the schoolish idea of you need to be sitting at a table or at a desk, or let them sit on the floor, go sit outside on the porch, on the stoop, wherever. It doesn't necessarily have to look like what you think of when you think of education,
Wow.
because for most of us that's what we think. Sitting
Right.
at your little 2 by 4 foot, little corner, and you're confined to this is your space, and you got your pencil and your notebook.
Right.
And, it doesn't have to look like that. And for, especially when you're working with the younger children, you will find that it's very, very difficult to get them to
Yeah.
meet that picture that we have in our mind.
And it's
It's,
especially true for boys too. Not to cut you off,
ooh, I have one of those.
but but they
Yeah.
weren't designed to just sit there,
Mm.
and so that is why sometimes they disrupt the classroom,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
it's not how their bodies were designed.
it's
So
not
this
natural.
gives right. So this gives them that opportunity. Like sometimes, like with spelling, they may need to pat their legs and say it with a rhythm. Some kids are so musical, you got to make
Yeah.
their words musical. So this gives
Mm.
you an opportunity to learn your kid and to study them, understand how they learn so that you can make it exciting for them. So it's almost like you're teaching them, but you're studying them at the same time. So
Mm.
that's important.
That's
And I
good.
know we got to wrap it up, y'all. It's like we just got started. And when you're excited about the conversation, it's like, oh man, it's going so quickly. But yeah. So there was another question. Oh, did you want to say anything, Gianna, about that question?
No, y'all, that was really good. I'm just taking notes, but I did want you to get to that other question. So if you can.
Okay, well, we can get to the other question. No problem. Let's
Okay.
have it.
So the next question is, what are three things I need to know before choosing a curriculum?
All right.
And I'm going to let you take this one.
Okay, I got 15 seconds for you. No. Okay, so number one, know your budget. Number two,
Mm.
know your child.
Mm.
Number three,
Okay.
know yourself. So you want
Okay.
to know how much money you are willing to spend. Number two would be know your child. You want to know what interests them and what gets them excited, um, how they learn and how they interact. And number three, you want to know yourself, because if you're going to be relaying this information to them, you want to be able to connect with the material also. So if it's something that you really feel uncomfortable with, unpacking and piecing out for them, it may not be the best fit for you. Because let's
Okay.
always remember there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
So those are
That's good.
my three things. You know your money, you
Okay.
know yourself, you know the baby, and you
Right.
streamline
And I
everything.
will say, most of us, when we start out homeschooling, and if we just buy one thing, we realize whatever we buy, we're not going to use all of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Never. I
So,
haven't used completely anything
right.
ever.
And sometimes you have to pivot when you find out, oh man, this wasn't what I thought it would be. And
Yeah.
you got to try something new. So, you know, I'm not a big curriculum person because I believe that you got to do what is best for the child. And so that means you take that concept and you say, based on my children, and when you have multiple children, you can teach multiple things to them at the same time. But one child, you're going to, give more meat to that subject
Yeah.
versus the really younger ones. And I know that's something that you do as well. And so I would say once you take those concepts, you're going to look at a curriculum and see how they approach it. Most kids like hands-on type of learning.
Yeah.
So the curriculums, like for science, Apologia, they give you science experiments and different information about what you need, like the materials you need and things like that. That's helpful. So those are the things that have been more helpful for me. I have
Okay.
never bought just one curriculum and said this is going to work for my kids and my family, because that's not how I learn.
Hmm.
So and
Okay.
I tend to like to provide the material in a way that is going to be exciting. So whatever I get in the book, I'm going to supplement it with some other stuff to make it
Okay.
better. At least
Okay.
that's how I try to look at it. So that's something
Yeah.
to keep in mind. Is it something that you may need to supplement? Because the book itself may not be everything that you need, because the goal is not completion. The goal is that your kids learn the information. And to me, that is so, it's just important to
That's
remember
good.
that. You want them to have a really good, solid foundation, because wherever they go, they'll be able to remember that. And so throughout
Yeah.
the day, you want to reiterate the concepts that you learned. So
Hmm.
even at the end of the week, so I talked about our outside time. While I'm outside with them, like if we're walking to the playground, I'm asking them questions about the materials that they learned earlier that week. So every
Hmm.
day you're going to reiterate concepts to make sure they have a full grasp of them. So
Hmm.
it's important for you to know the information so that you can do that, so that you can have them recall stuff later on in the day. So that's how I tend to approach it.
Okay.
There was another question that you asked, and it was about grading and transcripts. So that is going to be a little bit different depending on what state you live in,
Okay.
because homeschooling is it's regulated by the state. So in some states, they require people to have a regimented grade system like a public school or a private school. In our state, Miriam and I are in Maryland. They require for us to have a homeschool portfolio. And inside that portfolio, we are supposed to give them assignments and grade those assignments.
Okay.
And once we show the regular instruction, they get, this was acceptable, they had more than enough. And so it's, remember when we were really young, like in kindergarten, and you got like an S for satisfaction, and
Yeah.
then these other, so it's more of that sort of system. So we
Okay.
don't actually give a letter A, B, C, or whatever.
Hmm.
D, E, F, whatever. We don't. What we do is we show whether they've actually learned those concepts through the portfolio. And
Okay.
so that's how it's done. Now, for kids who are in high school, that's where the transcript comes into play. And so that's when you really need to be under an umbrella.
Yeah.
You want to be under another institution that's overseeing the lessons and overseeing the information so that they will have a formal transcript. So in every state it's going to be a little bit different, but that was the information for my state in Maryland.
Yeah, unless you want to do it yourself, which I've seen is quite the pain in the butt because they have, specific language they want used. They want it to look a certain way and be a certain way, and then you have to um, find a way. Like if you want to do actual diploma or something,
Yeah.
you would need to provide all of that stuff. So I agree. The umbrella is definitely the way to go
Yeah.
when you're getting into the upper grades. So then
Right.
it's
But
less work for you to do. I ain't gonna lie, it's well worth however many coins they asking for
Yeah.
to be able to have that headache off. Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's probably going to be more online umbrellas, virtual ones that open
Right.
up. So that's something to look into. I don't have high schoolers, so that's not necessarily something. None of us have high schoolers yet. So
We'll cross that bridge when
When
we
we
get
get there.
there.
Amen. Amen.
right. So that was really, I think we went through all of the questions. If you have more, you can definitely submit the questions. I'm going to look through our chat, and I'm going to share. Here's one from Alicia. She says, sometimes I sometimes use quiet time as an enrichment time for my younger child. These are different educational independence activities, matching numbers, words, etc. Yes, and those matching cards and things like that, that helps get their brain accustomed to
Mm,
memorizing. It's actually a tool that your kids and a skill that they're learning. So it looks like play to us, but it's real learning and it's a real activity. So I think
Well,
it's
yeah, play
definitely
is learning, especially at that age.
yes, yes. So this is another one. This is from Keisha Patterson. They use that method in Montessori learning environments, and that's
mm,
hands-on. Yes, hands-on. Also self-directed education. Um, she also said, be willing to be flexible. That is so important.
Yes, yes,
Jessica
yes.
Jessica Dudley said, implement quiet time, reading time. Most
Oh,
definitely.
hey, Jessica. Okay.
mm.
And she also said, find ways to incorporate learning while doing fun things. And there's another one. I think it's important to make homeschooling an out of the box experience. And I think that's the whole point of everything that we've kind of talked about. You make it your own. No, none of our homeschools, we are three different moms that approach life in different ways. So our
Yeah.
homeschools will be different. And while we can share our expertise and share our knowledge, whenever you're embarking upon this journey, you have to make it your own and you have to feel
Love that.
comfortable. And the biggest thing is to have support. So whether it's another homeschool mom that is supporting you, or it's you, with a
Okay,
spouse, you're
so
finding
I
support.
have to go. I think there's an emergency.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
But it's been great.
Bye. Oh,
okay,
it's
bye.
okay.
All right. So, yes, we have been on for 38 minutes, so we have to wrap it up, everybody. But I just
This is
wanted to
good.
thank everybody who joined us, who joined the conversation. And Gianna, I really hope that we can have a part two because I want to talk
Yeah.
to you in the future about how you incorporate your love of photography as a mom and teach your kids. So we'll
Mm.
have to do that in a part two.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
this has been great. So,
Awesome.
can you tell everybody how they can connect with you and find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram, Gianna Snell Photography. You can find me on Facebook, Gianna Snell Photography. And I also have a ministry called They That Wait Ministries, which is on Facebook. So we show up every Tuesday with testimonies. So you can find me any of those places. Uh-oh. You can't hear me. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I don't think you can hear me. Oh no. Can you hear me? No. But I'm done.
Okay.
That's where they
All
can
right.
find me.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for this conversation. I know that we
Yeah.
have some supplemental conversations in the chat. We will definitely, this conversation is going to go through August 6th. So every day I'm going to
Okay.
be coming on for 30 minutes talking to different families. So I want you to definitely tune in and share this conversation with a friend. So, what I will do, this particular conversation, I am going to put it on my blog, cleverlychanging.com, with some links to my podcast because we did whole shows about some of these topics. And if you needed to hear more information that's concrete, that's a place to look. So, it's 3:41 right now, so it will be up by 4 o'clock. So if you go to cleverlychanging.com, you can see the supplemental information. But I thank you all for your time, and I hope
Thank
that you
you.
guys, you're welcome. You're welcome. And
Thank
I hope that
you.
you guys have a wonderful year with your families. All right. Bye.
Bye.